Go live. Just gotta hit the start button. Good evening, YouTube. Hi, this is Rob Anderson coming here. Just waiting on Twitter Live.
There you go.
Hello, Twitter. Hello, YouTube. Rob Anderson running for Congress in Louisiana's 3rd Congressional District, coming into you live. Episode 15.1 of Swampside Chats. It is 15 since the second incarnation. Claire and I were discussing before we started, and we don't have the boom mic, by the way. So it's just running off the normal mics. So if you talk, we'll come over here. Claire and I were just discussing before Swampside Chats. Gee, I wonder if there's anything to talk about today. For those of you who may not know, our incumbent Congressman, Clay Higgins, last night posted a rather unhinged Facebook post, which then Facebook deleted. Not taken down by the congressman himself. Facebook deleted because it violated community standards because it had incited to violence. It basically threatened to shoot armed protesters. Now, to be clear, because I know people watch us from all over, Louisiana is an open carry state. It is perfectly legal to attend a gathering carrying a rifle or open firearm of any kind. So the insinuation of the post is that Higgins objected to these protesters carrying armed weapons, that he would oppose them, armed with weapons rather, based on nothing but the fact that they're protesting. So we did an official statement, and it is blown up around the news today. HuffPost, The Advocate, BuzzFeed, who else picked it up? The Hill, Politico reporter commented on it. It's all over the news. I'm sure I'd love for Matt out to pick it up. Wouldn't that be great? At any rate, we did an official statement, and so I'm going to read it to you, but we're going to talk about it while we do it, because I've already read the statement. It's in writing. I think the whole version is on the congressional page. But here you're going to get it anyway until people start asking me questions. So until then, I'm filling airtime. After seeing Congressman Higgins relegated to the sidelines during President Trump's visit over the weekend to survey the damage of Hurricane Laura. Now, for explanation, for those of you who didn't see, President Trump did visit on Saturday, and he was attended most closely by John Bel Edwards, Steve Scalise. Who else was close to him? Mike Johnson flew on Air Force One. Representative Mike Johnson from District 4.
People from FEMA.
There were some FEMA people. Of course, his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, flew along. And of course, a lot of the Calcasieu sheriff and some other sheriffs I know were there. But at any rate, in all the photographs you see Trump, you see John Bell, you see Steve Scalise. And we had initially thought Clay Higgins wasn't even there. And it's his district, this district, the one we are running for, that was most affected by Hurricane Laura. And it turns out he was there, but he was at the ladder table, the furthest away from Trump. And it seemed odd. It seemed like the GOP was kind of pushing him out of the picture. They didn't want him there for some reason. So that's the explanation for that. Many of us feared he would feel the need to make some sort of gesture to save face. And then it turns out this is pretty much exactly what happened. Unfortunately, Clay and many leaders like him these days are less concerned with the safety and well-being of those they represent and far more concerned with their image. I'm trying not to block the camera, but I'll stand it up reading so I don't look so funny. This is but one reason why people are looking for new leadership. Leadership that puts people over personal vanity and solutions over bombast. It's not like Congressman Higgins has not said stuff like this before. And this is true. It's historical, and we've been pushing the story, and it got picked up again because we have a good loudspeaker this time. Thank you. His dismissal from the St. Landry Sheriff's Department in 2016 was a direct result of similar threats against a group of young black teenagers whom he called animals to be hunted. These are his direct words. That after these comments, Mr. Higgins got scared and asked for more body armor. He was still employed at the Sheriff's Department at that time, and to take the markings off his truck, which belies his tough talk and posturing. One of his favorite quotes is always, "I'm easy to find," but it's talk. No elected official in this nation in any office should be responsible for drumming up violence where there is no violence. And this is absolutely true. Peaceful protests are just that. And we are seeing more and more. And the FBI backed us up on this when they investigated. They found no instances where BLM or Antifa specifically caused this violence. It's Boogaloo Boys, it's outside agitators, apolitical people, it's anarchists. There is violence going on. That's not what's being denied. GOP messaging is, it's obviously the opposition. Joe Biden himself is out there throwing cans of soup. I mean, this is what their messaging is. But the actual law enforcement investigation by the FBI has found that peaceful protests are just that, peaceful protests. We had dozens of them. I don't even know how many here in Louisiana over the summer. And I heard of no violence whatsoever at any of them. And the two of them, I can guarantee you, we didn't even litter. The ones we were at, they were very conscientious. The student crew was doing cleanup. So you're getting fake news. That's, the GOP messaging is they're coming to burn your bridges, and it's almost Jim Crow era. It's fear mongering is all it is. So no elected officials should be responsible for drumming up violence. To do so is literally to break the oath he took to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, which is true. What is worse, that while Congressman Higgins is nothing more than a cartoon of a so-called tough guy, those who listen to him and follow him are perhaps not so silly. And this is true. This is why you don't incite violence. You get people who are upset about unemployment, about a pandemic, about the fact they've never made a living wage or get health care in this state, and they're looking for somebody to blame. And here comes Higgins saying it's these outside agitators. It's all their fault. It's not our Republican policies to make sure you don't get a raise, and that we're trying to get rid of pre-existing conditions in the court system right now. It's the Democrats. Democrats doing this, which was obviously nonsense. What Congressman Higgins has done with his words inciting violence is to rally those who believe his words to arm themselves and come into our district looking for war. This is absolutely the most reckless, negligent, and irresponsible thing a public official could do. If he had a shred of dignity, he would resign, and we all know he does not. If you ever saw that picture of him in the coveralls. Sorry. I tried not to keep personal attacks about appearances, but that was a silly picture. By the way, this hat today I'm wearing is Bayou Rising. Yeah, as you may know, Hurricane Laura knocked over 600,000 people have been without power since it struck, and I'm one of them, which is why we do all the Wi-Fi and stuff from Dave's, because I have no electricity in my house. And it didn't affect Lafayette nearly as much. So I do believe the Bayou can rise, and it's also kind of a pun on the fact that Bayou is rising and we're losing part of our state. So that's where the name of that came from. We can rise up, but we have to rise up against the Bayou rising up. So that's what this hat is. I'm just kind of scruffy today. I just, was cooking a few minutes ago. We're dealing with the media all day. And sorry, I'm not dressed up for you, but, you're getting robbed.
Let's have something black on your face. There's a...
Oh, that's blood. My kitten swiped me. I meant to clean it before we started. Sorry. Kitten got scared by your dog and trying to run up my. Yeah, that's blood. Sorry. Oh, and I just knocked it loose. Can I have a Band-Aid or something? Paper towel?
Sure.
Wow.
I meant to.
I didn't expect it to be blood.
Yeah, it was blood. Okay. Be assured, we have notified local, state, and federal law enforcement of Higgins' threat and attempt to incite violence. We have also notified both House Democratic and Republican leadership in hopes that swift disciplinary action will deter other elected officials from following his vile example. We can only lead by example, and we can hope that he is censured by the House. This is unacceptable behavior from a civilian and from an elected official that's especially egregious. That's not part of the statement. That's me. But let me make one thing clear. Good, honest, decent Americans do not live to go out shooting other Americans. It seems self-evident, but sometimes you got to read the fine print. We do not want more violence. We want no violence. We do not glorify violence the way Mr. Higgins does. We do not see violent rhetoric as a substitute for genuine character. We do not want our children learning that making gross threats of gunning down people without even spilling their beer is more admirable than honest dialogue and a legitimate attempt to bridge our divides. The subtext in there is that I'm the other guy. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Clay Higgins obviously never learned what it means to be a real man, that it means restraint in the face of incitement, measured words over hyperbole, real effort instead of the laziness of popping off some Facebook post. It is my hope that Mr. Higgins' words will be roundly rebuked and condemned by members of both parties. Hopefully this can be the beginning for freedom. Oh, sorry, I read that badly. Let me do that again. Hopefully this can be the beginning for freedom-loving Americans from all walks of life to come together in the enduring mission to create a more perfect union. That's why I'm running for Congress. Not to posture, but to produce. Not to sound tough, but to do the tough work that our district, state, and country needs doing right now. Thank you. I'm Rob Anderson, and good night. Kidding. No. Just let off that was our statement, and it's been included in multiple articles, including was the Advocate that just updated. Yeah. Ooh,
Gross.
it's gross. I'm bleeding on live TV.
There
Okay. Trump told people to sell his autograph for cash to fix their homes. That's true. During that live session, for those of you who haven't seen the video, Donald Trump grabbed a piece of paper, a few pieces of paper, signed his name and handed it to, I think it was 2 sheriffs specifically that were called forward to meet the great man. And he said, here, $10,000 on eBay. And to the second one, he said, here you go, $10,000 on eBay. I didn't put your name on it because it would be worth less. That's what he said during a hurricane visit to an area that was stricken severely by a Category 4 storm. So, but I'm running against Higgins, not Trump, so we're not going to mention him a whole lot. Here's a good one. Josh Guillory's reaction to terrorist barbecue protest was, hello, police. My wife and children shouldn't have to witness this lady grilling. Hurry up and arrest her.
Using too much salt on the barbecue. And
Too much salt.
Spicy.
It was spicy, and I think there was mayonnaise involved
Oh, mine, that's great.
in the potato salad. There's probably raisins. Yeah, I heard about that, and a lot of people think that and then other people's sarcastic posts on social media about Antifa and armed black uprisings coming to protest Guillory were what led to Higgins jumping in with both feet, as if, you know, we were actually being invaded because he's not, what's the word? Smart.
Did you see they shut down the mall the other day?
No, what happened now?
Antifa.
Oh, the idea. Yeah, I
Antifa
did see
took the
about that.
mall.
The Antifa mall shut down. Yeah, so Lafayette right now is, and third district in general, is kind of insane. But this is actually where we live. This is real. This is happening. All the while, we're going back to Quincy every day, cleaning up our house. We're driving into Lake Charles, delivering cases of water like we did yesterday. So, I mean, we are busy right now. We're trying to campaign for you. And Higgins today just gives us this gift. It's like, thank you for showing everybody what you are, so that all I have to say is we're better than this. And you know, push our platform. Here's what we're about. It's right there. Lafayette protest, barbecuing, cupcakes, human chains, kittens. Higgins, I'll shoot them. That's about right. that's don't vote for that. We can do better. Hey Rob, have y'all heard of Rebellion PAC? I have not. Claire shook her head. Feel free to ask more questions to elucidate more. While I have a second of dead air, so to speak, I want to say to my people who do have power or watch it on their cell phones or know somebody who's in Lake Charles who you communicate with, we have a list of resources. I would hold it up to the camera, but then I'd have to hold it up for 5 minutes. Maybe somebody could type it on Twitter. I'll hand you the list afterwards. Type it in the comments on Twitter.
I can do that.
Yeah. These are some resources for those who are affected by Hurricane Laura. So I'm just going to read them out. For water, food, ice, and tarps. The big one that I knew of, and then when they put on the list, was the Lake Charles Civic Center, which is at 900 North Lakeshore Shore Drive, Lake Charles. Obviously, that's a big civic center right by the water, and they're using it as a rally point for those things. Water, food, ice, tarps. If you have them to donate, if you need them, go there. If you have them to donate, go there. Another drop-off point is McMurray Park, which is at 300 South Hazel Street in Sulphur. Now, Sulphur and Lake Charles are sister cities, but I mean, it could be a good 15, 20 miles in between. And if you don't have transportation, it's good to have local. How do we pronounce that?
It's Iowa.
Just make sure that it's not some
Iowa,
weird
yeah.
Louisiana.
Oh, is it?
Use Iowa.
See? Iowa Middle School, 401 West Miller Avenue in Iowa. Excuse me.
Iowa.
There's another one for Lake Charles. Walmart apparently is offering up their parking lot. The one at 200. I need reading glasses. 260 Sam Houston Jones Parkway in Lake Charles, in my own hometown, which I'll make sure to drop off some stuff there tomorrow. And is the DeQuincy Railroad Museum in DeQuincy, Louisiana. It's actually on Lake Charles Avenue. Is the name of it. 400 Lake Charles Avenue. It's actually where the rails cross, right in the middle. It's hard to miss. Vinton Elementary School, 1600 Hampton Street in Vinton. Washington Marion High School, 2802 Pineview Street in Lake Charles. And we have the Westwood Elementary School at 1900 Sampson Street in Westlake, which is another suburb of Lake Charles, of course. Y'all know, but for those who don't. So all of these areas were hit. And of course, further north, if you have somebody who's affected further north, you'd have to check on those, like DeRidder and on up to Shreveport, lost power. So, but the most severe effect was here in the 3rd district. And Dave's going to go ahead and put that on Twitter, type it out. Let's see what else we got. The Antifa guy offered to repay any mall workers' wages that they lost in response to his shenanigans.
Do you want to explain what we're talking about?
Okay. Yeah. For those outside of the district who don't follow the local stuff to get in on the joke, it started a few weeks ago with.
Well, it's a Facebook page called Cajun Memes.
Yeah, it's a Facebook page called Cajun Memes. So obviously, this is a satirical site, and it talks a lot about local politics that we don't read about in the national press.
And they did the.
What was the first one?
It was an Antifa takes River Ranch.
River Ranch, right. First, about a month ago, I think it was, they did a meme series that's Antifa is going to take River Ranch. It was going to be this big protest, and they were going to come in with, I don't even remember what. Also for those who don't know, River Ranch is sort of the upper middle class bougie section of Lafayette. It's often a buzzword for rich.
Gentrified Lafayette.
Gentrified Lafayette. There you go. Considering where they carved it out, I'm sure. So it was Antifa takes River Ranch, and then it was obviously a joke. And then the police actually ended up, I think it was a dozen police cars actually ended up showing up on the morning. I mean, they publicly posted it. It was like Saturday at 10 a.m. or something like that, about a month ago. And the police actually showed up because our current mayor, Josh Guillory, apparently reads Facebook but does not read subtext. So yeah, the police actually showed up in mass at River Ranch, and of course nobody was there, except some people were stealthily hanging nearby to take pictures of the police cars that showed up for this pseudo rally. And then then they were going to do the mall. That's the one I don't know the details on, but it was the same idea.
The same thing happened. They shut down the whole mall, evacuated the entire mall.
So they talked about the mall like ahead on posts, I guess.
And it was even more like blatantly like
Satire.
trying to make it clear that this was a joke, and they shut down the freaking mall.
So, in case you didn't hear, because we don't have the room mic on today, there was another series of Facebook posts that Antifa was going to take the mall, and they made it very silly. So it was obvious it was satire, but nevertheless, they came and shut down the entire mall. So then just the other day, I forget what day it was, a local woman started a barbecue in front of the mayor's house, which he then called police. Well, somebody said he called SWAT, but that was probably an exaggeration.
No, just called police. police.
He called the police because they were protesting him in the street, cooking whatever. I don't even know what she was
She
cooking.
was just barbecuing. She was literally like, I'd love for him to come outside and have some barbecue.
Right. She wanted to talk to him, and so she did barbecue, and it ended up being this thing. So right now our mayor is being seen as somewhat of a buffoon. And since he ran in the field last time in 2018, when I did as well, I got to know him a little bit, and he seems to go which way the wind blows. And I've tried to be able to talk to him, but he's kind of gone loopy here. So
especially now that he's not opening hurricane shelters. I want to talk about that.
talking about that.
The emergency shelters.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was leading up to that. See, all this is more or less funny, kind of goofy, like, oh, that's our mayor, but nothing egregious. But then because of these reports of Antifa taking the mall and such like that, Josh used that as an excuse to deny evacuees and refugees from Lake Charles, which was hit by the hurricane. And believe me, I drove through the other day to the church to drop off the water, and there are houses that are flattened. Most of the roofs are knocked down. We're not talking about the highest dollar neighborhood, so of course it doesn't get the attention. And the houses are maybe not as well built, so there's a lot of devastation. There's still power poles leaning over into the street in that neighborhood. I had to drive around. It's horrific. We're talking the hurricane was last Thursday, so tomorrow will be 1 week. And this is still what they're dealing with. So there are some people displaced. I'm one of them. But unfortunately, I have a place to stay, and not everybody does. And that's what we're talking about. And Lafayette said that they were not going to open any emergency shelters, even though they're the nearest major city. Lafayette and Lake Charles are 74 miles apart. The nearest major city, and they weren't going to help Lake Charles. And that's, I got to draw the line there. That's a shitty thing to do. Sorry, there's no other to put it, especially when you do it for an imaginary Antifa invasion or whatever crap they're trying to push on the national GOP ticket that's trickling down to here. It's like, give me a break. At this point, we're up to give me a break. Oh, yeah, you got a whole list on Josh, so we'll read it all. They're donating to progressive candidates and making great... this is about the Rebellion PAC, I take it. They're donating to progressive candidates and making great video ads in support of candidates that are running against corporate Dems and GOP. Well, then they should find me and make a video for me. Happy to do it. He tried to take away voting rights for protesting. It's unconstitutional, and the ACLU is demanding that he retract that, as well they should. A lot of people seem to forget because they like to hate the opposition without realizing the ACLU literally exists as the American Civil Liberties Union. It is strictly to defend the Constitution of the United States. It's not liberal. It's not conservative. It is literally to defend the Constitution. And they go out, boots on the ground, and donate to the ACLU police. They do good work, and they're these little and you see it a lot here in Louisiana, and I'm sure small towns everywhere. I know small towns all across the country. You got your local politicians who are doing these shady, crappy politics, and they try to get away with, and they pass laws that get overturned because the ACLU goes in there and says, "Excuse me, we have this thing called the United States Constitution, and we'd like you to honor that, please." Wow. Okay, I've been talking nonstop for 23 straight minutes. Somebody asked me something.
Would you like some tea?
Yes, I would. Actually, I would love a cup of tea. Dave made some tea he's gotten into lately. What kind is this one, Dave?
This is Kura and Hassan.
Yeah, it's two kinds of tea mixed together.
You want to check that first off? Do you want to go through that?
Yeah, you can start Twitter now. We're caught up on YouTube. Shout them out. I'll have to re-say them because of the room.
Okay. Bear with me for a moment. A lot of these are comments.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, Higgins is a fascist.
I'm sorry, Higgins is a fascist. Me too. Except that we have a plan to replace him, so that's why we're here.
What happened to your temple?
My kitten. We got a 4-month-old kitten that we rescued 4 months or about 2 months ago now. He was a bit smaller, and now he's gotten a bit feisty. And right now we're staying with somebody who has a very large dog who is very friendly but scares the kitten. And I was holding him to get him away from the dog, and he turned around and clawed me trying to run away. And I didn't notice it till Claire asked me, what's that on your temple? And it's just a little bit of blood. It's just, I thought a Band-Aid would be better than blood, but believe me, it is not a grievous injury. It's a little cat claw. It's just right in that, part of the temple that bleeds. So
Willie is an intelligent, kind-hearted gentleman in office for Louisiana. Thank you.
you're
Getting
welcome.
some excellent assistance.
Thank you.
Nice to see. A majority voted not sure. I don't know what that means or what was being voted on. It just says.
Nice to see a majority voted.
Okay, yeah, sure. How has Clay helped his constituents recover from the hurricane? I've seen no coverage on that.
Well, to be fair, and because we always tell the truth, the first day he basically blamed the governor for any lack of shelters. One of our constituents had contacted his office the day after, so it was Friday or Saturday, but it must have been Friday because Saturday was Trump Day.
It was Friday.
It was Friday. And he gave them a response saying this is all the governor's fault, blame him. And then came out later and publicly stated on Twitter that, my office is open to help right after having told a constituent to bugger off. And that constituent made a post and that went around. They sent it to me. That was one of the reasons it went around. Excuse me. But since then, he has been involved by making his staff do the work. From what I could tell in his video today, he said his staff is out donating water and food and fuel, he mentioned. So he, apparently his staff has been doing stuff. What Higgins himself is doing, he lives in Lafayette, so he's probably sitting there drinking and trying to think of who else to write a hate speech about. Just going by recent events. It just decided to fall over. It might have been the dog. All right, next Twitter comment. What do you got? So he is doing stuff now. At first, he played partisan politics, while those of us who were actually affected were like cutting trees out of the driveway so we could park our cars to check to see how our houses survived a Category 4 hurricane.
Somebody said, in response to us asking what the majority voted for,
Yeah.
Someone said something nasty. The majority on the stream vote. I don't know what was being voted on. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar. So I don't know how to help you there. But
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. If it's a question, I don't understand it.
Someone asked paper towels.
You remember Trump after Puerto Rico when we did not get any paper towels, darn it. Lo and behold, and I can't figure out how this happened, but when Trump visited Lake Charles Saturday, I wasn't invited. So I don't know what that's about. Our governor, who is a Democrat, was there and he kept his cool and took them on tours of damaged areas. And then they posed with the National Guard. And then he flew off to Orange, Texas, I think. Was his next up on Saturday. Trump. And the governor probably went on to, but autographs. What is your view on reallocating funds away from the police towards social workers, outside investigations, police misconduct, and homeless resources, etc.? That's a complex issue because of the messaging on it. I don't like a lot of the messaging on it. So what we're going to focus on is we need reform. Obviously, the basic things like police officers, law enforcement officers, obviously the vast majority of whom are law abiding themselves. There are abuses of power. We're seeing it. Everybody has a smartphone now. We need things like they need to be better trained. In Europe, they have a higher standard. They go through maybe a 2-year course before they can become police officers. And they're paid as if it's a career, a professional career. And I think we need more of that. Anytime you have better trained people, they're going to react better. And they need to not be able to turn off their body cams, for example. We, the people, should control those body cams so that we can have oversight. And one of the other things we recommend is a civilian oversight board. No entity can reasonably investigate itself. There is going to be automatic corruption if you do it that way, and not just police. I'm talking Congress, any union, anywhere you ever work, there has to be oversight, and it has to be independent oversight, because if they're in the same entity, there's no impetus for them to tell the truth. The impetus is to cover up or to not investigate fully. And again, I'm not speaking on a specifics, but we need independent oversight. And yes, I do think that a lot of the functions that we currently use 911 for calling police. And I used to be a 911 operator in Texas for 3 years. During a period right after the last recession, and I had to work where I could. A lot of the calls you get are specious, and the police officers are not needed. They're just literally emergency workers who happen to be connected to the dispatch system, so they get sent out. If somebody literally needs a ride to get their diabetes medicine, if they're throwing a fit because they didn't take another medication, there are a lot of reasons that other people, such as social workers, counselors, many other resources, homeless shelters.
School mental health services.
I'm sorry?
School mental health services.
Right. School mental health services. All of those would be an additional resource that then the police would say, no, okay, that's not one of ours. We'll just need a social worker. It's not literally somebody robbing, with a weapon, a store where you need a police officer and an armed response. It's just somebody who needs help. So we need a helpline tied in with 911 or a separate one. I mean, it took years for people to learn 911. So perhaps the national central 911 operator is the way to go, and then just find a new division. We haven't discussed that part. So this is literally off the top of my head. I just remember being a 911 operator. People know that number. They know to call it. It's up to the dispatcher to find out immediately if it's an emergency. When we were dispatching an ambulance, immediately we'd find out, is the patient breathing? If the patient's not breathing, it becomes a different level of priority. And that's where training comes in for dispatching, obviously. And the same thing. And this is a non-violent, this is not a crime. This is somebody's upset about something, and then it turns out it can be handled with just maybe somebody who has a car who can go get medication. A lot of calls are just like that, and they don't need to be escalated. And right now, a lot of minority communities are fearful of police arriving, and you can argue whether their reasons are good or not. I happen to believe them, but we can de-escalate by doing things intelligently, and that's something our political system is not geared to do. Nothing we do is intelligent, so that's why you get this. Did you have another one? Go ahead.
Someone said, Rob, non-political question. What are your tattoos? They look like you got them in military service.
No. So I just got a question. What are my tattoos? So I'll run through the gamut there as best I can on IHT. That is a red dragon and the Japanese kanji for fire. That was from the dojo days that got that originally in 98. I trained in jiu-jitsu for 7 years. This one I got when my daughter was born in 1991. The band was 92. That's the other tattoo. I'll get there in a second. This was an American Eagle. Literally, I just walked into a tattoo shop and decided I wanted a tattoo. It was the 4th of July. We were off. I was at home. I had a new baby, and I wanted to celebrate her. And I just literally picked their first stock pattern of an American Eagle. It seemed patriotic, and it wasn't. It was done in honor of her, but she is not an American Eagle. My daughter is a human. But that's where that came about. Now, this is a skull with a sword cut through it that was actually done by a design. People have told me it looks like Army Rangers or something like that. Tattoo is not a military tattoo. This is from the rock band I was in 1992. The writing is worn out, but the name of the band was Sea Gray. That's where that came from. And then the guy who was the original lead singer did a drawing, and then in 92 I put that on and said, I'm bassist. And then to balance it out, I did one on my other shoulder. That's the most recent one. That is the symbols for female and male intertwined. And the blue for water and red for fire. Oh, sorry, that's male. I think I said it that way correctly the first time. Red, fire, male, water, and then a sunburst behind it. That's literally all it is. Male and female entwined, which is the human race. That's, to me, that doesn't mean you have to be heterosexual. It's not an anti-LGBT thing.
Look at me.
Just in case I said something politically
Oh
wrong.
my
That was for me and my wife, obviously. So my son's left out unless I attribute to get a fifth one. I'll have to get a fifth one, but he's old enough to get one himself now. That's what those mean.
Okay.
Next was there another? No.
Do you have an opinion, hard and fast opinion on Huey P. Long?
Huey Long did a lot of great things for Louisiana. There's a reason he's populous and beloved. He was also, he kind of defined Louisiana political corruption. So a lot of people hold the Kingfish in high regard. and you wouldn't knock their opinion of it. The same thing about Edmund Edwards. A lot of people, yeah, love him. Some people hate him. I think Huey was very good at reaching out to the roots. That's my diplomatic answer to that one. Didn't know you were a 911 operator. Yes, I was for 3 years. Yes, it seems there needs to be a separate response team for things that don't need the police. Absolutely. Do you know anything about the claims that John Bell Edwards is blocking electricity companies from working because they're not COVID-19 compliant? I will say that sounds like BS. I haven't heard that particular story yet.
That is not the case.
That is not the case, Claire says.
It is true that if out-of-state workers come into the state to work,
oh, the 14-day quarantine.
They will have to quarantine afterward.
Afterwards, okay.
But in general, we have agreements with those companies to provide for that. He's not blocking electricity.
It sounds like typical counter messaging where they take part of a truth and they blow it into John Bell doesn't want us to have power because he hates us, which is obviously nonsense. I will say anecdotally, my own neighborhood, the power poles have all been replaced already. Now, granted, there's no power in them, but you got to start somewhere, and they have already. So the electrical workers are coming in from out of states, and they will have to follow the state's COVID-19 quarantine compliance after they're finished. Meaning, just like if you go to Texas and work officially between business, my sister had to do this when she came back to visit Louisiana. When she went home, she had to quarantine for 14 days. Same thing with people who come here to work from Texas or Mississippi, or people are coming from all over to help. By the way, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of power trucks rolling in the other day. So there is a pandemic going on. Let us not forget. So most industries enact upon their own employees. If you're out working in Louisiana and you go back to somewhere else, there's a pandemic, you got to quarantine. Right now, the United States as a whole has not conquered this problem. So I hope that answers that question.
Somebody asked that you get your whole team in the frame, and I'm going to go ahead and veto that.
Somebody asked if we get the whole team in the frame, and Claire is going to veto that because we had not planned for it. So everybody's kind of dressed in sweats and t-shirts, and believe me, we've been through a hurricane here. Everybody's kind of ugly right now, even me. I gave you the explanations why I am, but I have to be in front of the camera. They don't. Claire declined politely. I promise next week or one of these weeks we'll have her back on. We love having her here. She's the political mind, all of this whole thing. I'm just the guy who gets up here and yaps. And obviously Dave, doing the grunt work behind the scenes. Ash was sitting there on the couch and is not now, so I don't know why I waved at her. These are all of the people who make this happen, and not always are they expecting to be on TV, and they weren't today. So okay, that's the same question we already got. You got another one? No, you're gorgeous, Star. Thank you. That's why I sit in front of the TV, the camera. Anyway, and besides, you haven't seen my unbrushed hair, so that's why I'm wearing the hat. Actually, I'm wearing the hat because Bayou Rising. The mess. You
don't have any YouTube comments?
No, just Nicole. That's where she said, "No, you're gorgeous, darling." That was the last. Thank you. Well, it's 7:38. If nobody's got any questions in it, that was it on Twitter, other than comments. To everybody on Twitter who commented, hello. I do go back and read the comments after this thread, so not to leave y'all out. I'll answer the questions live as needed, but I'll give you the individual shout outs later. Thank you all for joining us.
Hondo asked if we could increase the volume, but we don't have the mic to do so.
Yeah, sorry, Hondo. The sound is off because I have this, nice room mic that we use, but I can't find the little cord that, so sorry. I bet you it works Bluetooth too, though. No, because the power didn't come on. It never mind. So that's why the sound's a little down today. I'm just on computer and iPhone sound, so I apologize for that. Technical difficulties we will dig out, and we'll have all our equipment ready next time. It's Bayou Rising Group. It was a nonprofit that I founded actually a year ago, and we had started doing stuff Obviously, everybody who follows me knows that I am pro legalization of cannabis. So we supported the Louisiana Veterans for Medical Cannabis. There's a big group here in Louisiana, and one of the first things that I started a foundation so that we could help them. We could donate to their cause, promote it, help them stage an event. We did the 422 Lobby Day last April. But when I went to run for Congress, obviously I couldn't be on that board of directors, so I killed the group. The brand and the social media still exist. And I've offered if somebody, Democrat in state, wants to take it over, and then they can restart a corporation called Bayou Rising. I won't, fight a trademark, but right now it's just this is what I did last year, nonprofit, and then we went right into the campaign, and we may do it again. And I love my hat, so I keep it. I did like the design; it's embroidered. They did a really good job. And a bunch of people around the state did get them, and I did a bunch signed. I signed a bunch. Last year when we were doing it, and sent them around the country and Canada. Somebody from Canada bought one because that was not a political event. That was a nonprofit. So of course, anybody could buy a hat. But that's what it was. So it was basically, that was my 2019, was trying to help causes. Louisiana Veterans was one. What were the other stuff we did last year?
We had some.
Oh, there was a bunch of local races, Democrats and primaries that we were trying to help out. Of course, they lost, but not for lack of trying. We're trying to promote Democrats or progressives specifically in Louisiana. That's what it was for. It's pro-progressive group. We're not going to give up on it. Like I said, it's just shelved right now. It's not a corporation or a LLC or anything right now, but maybe again someday. Hopefully I win Congress and somebody else can take it over. And then they can have the Facebook page, which has thousands of followers, and they can have the Twitter link that has thousands of followers. It's standing there waiting for a progressive to come in, some young one to come take it over. It's like on to the next generation. I think that is it for the questions. So, this time we're going to be over and out unless anybody has anything they wanted to add. Let me throw a little bit. My name is Rob Anderson. I'm running in Louisiana's 3rd Congressional District. The kit cornerstones. How do we get a yard sign? Good question. Can you type on YouTube? Give her the answer. Just give her the link.
Sure.
There, we have links set up on the website. Whatever, you can go right to it and register for it, and somebody behind the scenes is going to answer that question for you. Running in the 3rd district, the cornerstones of our platform are infrastructure. I've said it so much, I should never flub that word. Infrastructure, education, healthcare, coastal remediation. Think of the 4 edges of a pyramid. That makes a successful district. All those things go up. Everything in Louisiana gets better. We get better corporations coming here, alternative energies. It's all part of that platform. We want a better tax base. We want, better education, better trade schools. It's all together. Healthier population, lives longer, less cancer. Everybody does better. And that's the cornerstone of our platform. And we do it with a view that every human being deserves human rights. Yep, there you go. All righty. Thank you all for attending tonight. It was good to be back. We had to skip last week, obviously, because that was hurricane evacuation night last Wednesday. And I did not have access to Wi-Fi at the time. I think it was you who said you should try to do one up there. I was like, hell no.
Well, you were also driving at the time too.
No. By the nighttime we were there. But,
oh, okay.
But it was the hotel where the power went out and all that. So, just couldn't do one last week, but we're back. Glad to be back. Thank you, everybody. Hope this was informative. These get archived. Go look at the YouTube channel. You see all our videos. Some funny ones mixed in there. We do occasional satirical, or I have done some outtake videos. I mean, I'm just a regular guy running for Congress, but we archive everything. We'll answer any question. You can see it. Here we are. Thank you all. See you next week. Just hit end.